Welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Jess Rainer. I'm here, as always, with Thom Rainer. Sometimes Thom Rainer's here without me, but I'm never here without Thom Rainer. It's why we're all here, because we're excited to hear from the man, the myth, the legend, Thom Rainer. I never described you as like that, but hey, there's always a first time. I will say this: it is pretty cool. As I'm getting older into adulthood, how I get to hear about the impact of your ministry over the years. And I don't have a specific instance, but I hear it more time and time, just how thankful people are for your work. And a lot is through your writings, your books. You have a gift of writing. It is not fair. I have watched you write books, and it's not fair how you can write books. How you can literally pull out a back of an envelope, write down your idea for a book, and then all of a sudden the whole thing appears magically. It's just what it feels like. It's just like, it's not fair. I remember the time, I guess you would have had to have a laptop. This was back, I was a little kid, and we're down in Corinth, Alabama, visiting family, and you were sitting at a kitchen table, visiting family, writing a book. And I just remember just like, how can he do this? How's this possible?
That's easy. I always ignored your mother-in-law. I mean, my mother-in-law, not your mother-in-law.
Oh, dear.
So her voice, I was just oblivious to it.
But even then we're all running around. I mean, I was outside shooting BB guns, shooting off fireworks. And there you were writing a book at the kitchen table of your in-laws' house. I don't know. I don't remember what book that was. Maybe you have recollection of that.
I don't have any recollection. I know I started off on a Selectric typewriter.
Yeah.
And I had to use whiteout when I made a mistake.
And you were in the basement on a
Basement
card table.
In Wendover, on our home in Louisville, and the dogs were with me.
That's right. And it wasn't like a basement. This was like a storage basement. This is concrete and
it's a 1938. It's a 1938 house. So
yeah. It's amazing. But one of the things that's been pretty cool over the years is just watching you. Obviously God's gifted you in so many different ways, but being able for you to write these books. And one of those books is, and we're going to be talking about this book today, talking about a book you wrote 2015, 2016. I don't remember the actual copyright date on that one. 2015, 2016, called Autopsy of a Deceased Church. But we're going to be talking about what does it look like, that book from 10 years ago today? A lot of authors will do revised or updated books. We're kind of doing a podcast that's kind of revising or updating this book a little bit in some ways. And so this is a special treat if you are listening to this podcast. Most authors don't do this, but we're going to be talking about what does an autopsy of a deceased church in 2025 look like. But before we jump into the discussion, we have two sponsors for this podcast. We want to thank one of them right now, and that is Cheney and Associates. They are, again, a sponsor, but they're a partner. They're a partner with Church Answers. They're a partner in the local church, and they want to partner with you. If you are a ministry leader and you are thinking, hey, we really need to, start working on our bookkeeping, our finances. We need to make fast decisions. We need to have, our financial insights ready to go at a moment's notice. Cheney and Associates, they're ready to do that for you. So if you're looking for a partner in ministry that can help with your finances and your bookkeeping and your accounting, go check out Cheney and Associates. Their website is cheneyassociates.com/churchanswers. If you're have some show notes you can click on depending on what device you're watching or listening, go to that website, cheneyassociates.com/churchanswers. Stewardship matters. Your time is precious. They can help with both. So go check them out.
Great folks.
Awesome. All right. So we're talking about a book that you wrote. In fact, I grabbed a copy of it here. It's just called Autopsy of a Deceased Church. And actually, speaking of copyright, I could look at it.
You probably know.
2014.
2014.
Copyright Thom Rainer. At least the book I have.
Okay. So it went to number 1 in 2015 then.
Okay. Okay. And there's a cool companion book called Anatomy of Revived Church that kind of sees
It's
both
the other
sides of
side
this.
of it. Yes,
It is the other side of it. But this is, a church that has closed its doors. What happened? That's really the premise of the book. What
exactly.
happened? Why? And it's
And
it's a
and
it's a look back.
and it was an easy process. Maybe not easy listening to the people, but it was easy because I would talk to people who had been in a church that closed the doors. I talked to pastors. I talked to church members. Usually I would find them in consultations, and I would find out in the course of my interviewing them that they had been in another church and it closed the doors. And so I just take time to ask them. And then I became more intentional about it, started asking questions. This is a case study. It's not a
Mhm.
database study. It's a case study. But after talking to enough people, you start to see patterns. You start to hear things over and over again. And thus that book was born. Now, at one point, you could put a URL in churchmortician.com and it would forward to me. I just
I know
tried
this.
it. I just tried it and it didn't work. Maybe I misspelled it, but because I'm trying to talk on a podcast and do this on my iPhone as well. But Jonathan Howe, when he was with me, he got me that URL, churchmortician.com. I tried it a year ago and it worked, but then it didn't work. But I'm going to try it again later.
Well,
And I
and
know
my
that
guess is before this podcast is released, is you're going to make sure you have it. So that's an odd one. Churchmortician.com. I don't think anyone's going to be running after that one. I really don't.
I can't imagine I gave it up though. I mean, Jonathan said never give this one up.
Yeah. Well, interesting. We'll by the time this podcast is released, I'm sure there will be an answer to that question. But yeah, this is a look back. So here's what we're going to be doing over this podcast and the next episode. It's going to be two parts. We're going to be talking about this research. This case study, I should say, this case study that was done in
Case study
2014.
Research is fine.
Case study, all that. We're gonna apply it to today, and we're gonna be looking at, there's a bit of a sobering reality of what's happening with the landscape of churches today, and so we're gonna be looking at 8 signs that a church is nearing its end today, and what does it
Right.
look like today? And so we're going to be covering these. And so if you're listening to this podcast and it's maybe just a good checkup for you. If you're experiencing these, maybe it's time to get some help. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I've hit 1 or 2 of these. Maybe I need to start opening my eyes. Our whole hope for this podcast is that you won't close your doors, and at the bare minimum, you'll just be reminded of some things to watch for, and making sure your church is healthy. And so let's talk about 8 things. And in this first episode, we're going to look at 4 of them. New signs that a church is nearing its end in 2025. So here's the first one, and it's a big one:
Mm-hmm.
loss of hope.
This one was accelerated by COVID. The hopelessness factor was present in the first autopsy. It has gone from present to pervasive, where many churches had their attendance cut by 50, 60, 70%, and they lost hope. And maybe they had slight decline up to that point, but now they really have lost hope. And so they've given up. They're basically, you listen to the pastor, you listen to the church members, and they're saying it's only a matter of time. And they're saying that death is inevitable. And then we are now watching many of these churches. Of course, we're going all the way back to, so for many of us, COVID 2019, 2020 particular is just a marker, and it has become a marker for churches accelerating their closure rate. And we're seeing it again and again. We're seeing it in churches right now that were probably declining before COVID, but declining precipitously after. Now, look at other churches. Church at Spring Hill, church you lead, is way above the COVID numbers, way above the COVID numbers, way above the pre-COVID numbers. And so that can happen. But some of these churches, it hit them and they said, there's nothing we can do. That's not true, but they said there's nothing we can do.
So do you think that is it articulated that way? Like a church who has lost hope, do they say we've lost hope?
They articulated by saying it's a matter of time before we close our doors.
So that verb you're saying at, a church that's saying we're just hanging on, we're done.
Right. In fact, one church member told me, again, this was a digital consultation via Zoom. One church member told me, he said, well, from my perspective, it's just a matter of before we don't have enough money to pay the bills, and we're getting close.
Okay. So it's not saying we don't have hope, but it's just reading. It's hearing some of those things that it's only a matter of time.
They may not say they don't have hope, but they're exhibiting hopelessness. So
Okay.
Loss of hope.
And so this you saw this again from 10 years ago when the book was 11 years ago when the book was released. This was a predominant sign then as well.
It was a predominant sign, but now I see it's pervasive.
Okay.
The loss of hope is much more common, much more quickly articulated. How about that?
Okay.
Than it was 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay. So that was our first sign that a church is nearing its end, is this idea of, it's only a matter of time, that there's not much hope. Second thing is they're looking for transfer growth. So explain that. They're looking for transfer growth.
This is a new one. Prior to COVID, there was a significant number of new members who were coming into churches from other churches. Some of them from other towns, but some of them, every community has its circulation of the saints, its shuffling of the sheep, where the latest hot church, and then they move to the next one. So every church has that. But here's what's happening. Transfer growth is disappearing. Now, transfer growth from one community to another is not, but people who are coming into churches as Christians from other churches in the community, that number has gone down so much. It has shocked me. The transfer Christians that I would normally call the cultural Christians, those who are just looking for a church to meet my latest needs, that group of people has just shrunk dramatically. And so what is happening, many churches built their outreach philosophy basically on getting other Christians instead of reaching people who are not followers of Christ. And so if there is no evangelistic outreach, if they're looking to grow by, I don't want to say stealing from other churches, but welcoming people from other churches, those churches are the most likely to die because the pool is so much smaller.
So a sign is that's what they're looking for.
Yes. And you look at some of the things in the way that they talk and the way they market and the way that they're reaching out, and it's obvious that there's not a conversionary motive behind it. It's basically, our church can do this better than the other church. They'll never say it that way, but that's essentially how they feel and what they're doing. Oh, we have a better children's ministry than any church in town, or we do this or we do that. The more they say that, the worse it's going to get, because transfer growth is not already a significant pool for people coming to church. That's why the church is declining. That's why frequency of attendance is declining. It's because cultural Christians are disappearing.
Yeah. To me, this would be hearing you describe it, this would be a very early warning sign.
Could very well be.
Like this would be one where if that was the mode of growth, if that's the culture of the church, there's probably enough success in it.
It was success.
Yeah, that it won't last. And your point is that pool is just drying up so fast.
It is.
And so if a church hasn't changed its language and their culture, and that's been their primary motive is reaching the church, which sounds weird. That's a major warning sign, but it could be for a lot of churches, it could be an early warning sign. Or maybe there's even if they're feeling like, hey, we're not growing, maybe there's this thought of like, well, what if we started trying to do something better? Like, what if we have this version of this ministry? Mm-hmm. Let's use that to draw people in. If that becomes a mind shift or a leading culture of the church, that could be a warning sign. Is that fair?
That's fair. It is. And I think that the churches can look for that early warning sign and say, we need to do something about it earlier than maybe some of these other symptoms. Let me give you an extreme example that is older I don't think it happens today, but in my day, back in the old days, if you were in a church above the Mason-Dixon line, so if you were in a more northern, Midwestern, Northwestern, Northeastern church, one of the stated strategies was to go look for cars that had, I got this backwards. If you were in a Southern church, the strategy was to go look for cars that had a above the Mason-Dixon line tag and put a flyer in their windshield,
Huh.
because they had moved from the north to the south, and you were trying to reach them, and a likelihood a number of them were already in a church. They just hadn't found a church home. The strategy was to get transfer Christians. They
Mm.
didn't put the flyers in all the windshields, just those who had come from the north, who may be now a prospect for transfer growth. Well, that's an out of town person. That's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
our church has Californians, New Yorkers.
Right.
I'm glad they have come because they're new in the community.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not inherently bad, but I'm saying there's these things. If that's the only form that you're going after, that's where the warning signs come. Because I mean, yeah, new mover mailers are, pretty common. That they're designed to do that. But it's like, if that's the only thing you're trying to do, then that might be a warning sign. Well, we are partnering with organization that is all about reaching the community and reaching everyone in the community, and that is Upward Sports. And so, if we're talking about some warning signs, this is something where you can get rid of all the warning lights in the dashboard, and you can run after the community just by reaching them, and that's through sports. By the time this podcast released, the fall will be coming up pretty soon, and fall, people think sports. It's a major sports season, and so maybe you as a church need to start preparing, maybe even thinking ahead to 2026 and thinking about the whole next year. Be thinking ahead. And so what Upward Sports wants to do is they want to come alongside of you as you're planning for the fall. Maybe you're planning for the next year. They can offer a variety of sports for every church. I mean, so don't let your facilities think you're limited. They have things like pickleball, which doesn't require a lot of space. They have upward running for adults. They have a ton of different options. I mean, pickleball, it's hot. In fact, I just came across, actually near your house, Dad, a new retail space that had transferred into a pickleball court and hangout.
Wow,
So it was an old retail space that they transferred. I forgot they call it. It's like pickleball something, where you come and hang out and play pickleball. It's that's
amazing
that's all
indoor
it is.
pickleball. Wow,
So if you want to jump in on reaching the community by what they're doing, go to upward.org/church answers. Go to upward.org/pickleball. Go check them out. One way or the other, Upward would love to help you think about reaching your community. We're talking about warning signs here, particularly in 2025, that a church, could be nearing its end. It could be a ways off. These are some early warning signs. Some of these are late warning signs. We talked about loss of hope. That's a late warning sign. We talked about looking only for transfer growth, which maybe could be an early warning sign. Another warning sign, based off, again, this is from my dad's book, from Autopsy of a Deceased Church. We're kind of updating it here on the spot during this podcast.
right.
A third reason or third sign that a church is nearing its end today in 2025 is that there's no evangelistic outreach.
Churches that close have no evangelistic outreach. I have never seen a church close that has evangelistic outreach. Never.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Secondly, not only have I never seen a church close that doesn't have evangelistic outreach, the number of churches that have true evangelistic outreach, again, I think my percentage is understated, but I'm going to say at least 90% have zero evangelistic outreach. And I really think it's a lot higher. I think it's 95% plus. But since I haven't done it database, since I've done it anecdotally, I'll say at least 9 out of 10 churches have zero evangelistic outreach.
Wow.
You're not going to last long that way. Well, you might. You might last a decade or two, but you're on your way to death.
You could write it out. Yeah, this one, I mean, I guess I'm kind of putting this as an early warning sign, as a late warning sign. You're not, I am. This one could go across any stretch of where you are. The thing is, if you have no evangelistic outreach, this one, I feel like it can be remedied like pretty quickly.
Do the Hope Initiative.
Yeah.
That is low-hanging fruit for prayer and evangelism.
If you're not familiar with that, that's a resource here from Church Answers. Go check out the Hope Initiative. Go to churchanswers.com and look for Hope Initiative. You can find this resource. It's really easy. It's a 30-day jumpstart into reaching your community, and it's through prayer and small things, texting people, writing note cards, inviting people to church. So gather a group in your church and do it.
Walking in your neighborhood, praying for homes, not knocking on doors, just
Right.
praying for homes.
Yeah.
When we did it at church at Spring Hill, your mom drove, I walked.
I love it.
She prayed in the car and I walked.
Is it you're looking at these warning signs, loss of hope, looking for transfer growth, no evangelistic outreach? Think about it. When's the last time someone in my church has shared the gospel? That's a good question to ask yourself. And maybe when's the last time I shared the gospel? If you can't think of a single time in recent memory, that could be a little bit of a warning sign. But there's hope, right? There's hope. You can do this. So, but we're talking about things, a look back of churches that closed their doors. These are some of the signs that they saw. And that third one was no evangelistic outreach. Our fourth one and final one we're going to cover for this episode, we're going to cover the remaining four in our last episode. But the last one for this episode, which was our fourth sign, is thinking that the past is the hero.
When I did Autopsy the first time, it was hard to pick a particular date that was the hero. It depended upon where the church had its glory days. For some, it was in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. Now there's a consistent date, fairly consistent, and that date is 2019, pre-COVID. Pre-COVID has become the hero. If we could just get back to where we were, those were the good old days. They really weren't that good, but compared in many churches to how they are now, today, the past is 2019. We use that as our base now for analyzing churches. Look at 2019 and where they are today, instead of having to go back much further than that. So it can be any time. It's the glory days, but in the perception of many church members and church leaders, 2019 was the time before everything fell apart.
Yeah. So you're saying if a church is constantly saying, how do we go back to that time? It's usually a warning sign.
Right. Or any time. It doesn't have to be 2019. But 2019 is becoming more and more common.
That makes sense. Yeah, you're thinking past instead of future,
right?
And thinking about where you could go. Well, we are looking at over 2 episodes with the Church Answers podcast. We're going back and revisiting the insights from Autopsy of a Deceased Church, which is a book by my dad, Thom Rainer. And we're really on the spot here, giving you a revised and updated edition with the book. And so we're looking at 8 reasons that are 8 signs, I should say, that a church is headed towards decline, headed towards closing their doors. Maybe not right around the corner, but maybe down the road. In 2025, we're looking at what are the reasons in 2025. So updating the book. So we looked at 4 today. We looked at the loss of hope, looking for transfer growth, no evangelistic outreach, and thinking that the past is the hero. We're going to be picking up with signs 5, 6, 7, 8 in our next episode. But before we close this one out, I want to thank one more time Cheney and Associates. We thanked them at the beginning of this podcast. We want to thank them at the end as well. They are an accounting firm specific for the local church, and they do awesome work helping churches make sure their finances are in order, making sure they provide the right financial insights to the local church, to the leaders, so they can make real-time, accurate decisions, ministry decisions. Knowing where you are and financially is really important for a church in order to make future decisions. And maybe you're sitting here thinking about, hey, we're going to start doing some things. We're going to get more into the outreach. How much money do we have to spend? Well, if you don't know the answer to that, you probably should go to CheneyAssociates.com/churchanswers.
The best for the church. Best for the church.
They'll get all the information in order. They'll help you out. Any church, any size, any budget, go check them out. Well, we hope you will join us in the next episode, because we're going to be continuing this discussion about what does an autopsy of a deceased church in 2025 look like. We covered our first 4. We're going to be covering our next 4, our final 4, in the next episode. And so we'll see you then.